Alright, so chapter 12 is going to deal with probability. And one of the biggest things you guys can do to help yourself is make sure you're always double checking answers with people around you or answer keys that are up front. Make sure you get the answers right, because it's very easy to think you did the problem correctly with probability and find out that it wasn't even close.
I would die.
So, experimental probability and theoretical probability. Does anybody know the difference between those?
Experimental, you actually try physically. Theoretical is just mathematically.
Okay.
Or experimental is guessing. Experimental is what happens, or theoretical is what should happen.
So an actual running of trials, you actually run the experiment, or what you expect mathematically. So we can also look at it over here. So experimental probability, we roll the dice 10 times, count the number of sixes you get, put your answer here. So if we actually ran this as a class, we have 20 students in here, we all roll the dice, we'd have 200 total rolls if everybody did 10, and then we just count the number of sixes, and we could get, is it possible that we could only, out of everybody only get 20 sixes? Could we get 100 sixes, right? So it's the actual experiment, but theoretical is what do we expect mathematically? We expect 1 out of 6. So 1/6 of our rolls should be a 6. So out of 200, what would that be? A little over 30? No, you don't have to do that. I'm just explaining it based on this problem. So there are different ways that you can do this. Roll your dice. You could go to math, slide over to probability, do number 5, which is telling the calculator to do a random integer. You can tell it to do 1 comma 6. So what it's doing is it's going to select numbers between 1 and 6, which would represent rolling the die. And then, if I do it 10 times, or I don't need to, let's just do this. So I'm just going to roll the dice like this. So it rolled a 3. It rolled another 3. Is that possible that you can get back-to-back 3s? Yeah, experimentally, yes. Then 2, and we could have done it that way and collected the results. Some of you have calculators that have an app on there that actually roll dice. It's the same thing. Okay? Something like this with geometric probabilities. Calculating geometric probability. What is the probability of hitting the shaded area with a dart if it is thrown at the rectangle? Now what they're talking about is something that would just randomly throw the dart. Not a human throwing the dart that would have, some of us have more accuracy than others. So some of you could hit that blue area. If I gave you 10 darts, you could hit the blue area 10 times. Some of you couldn't hit the active board. But what we're talking about is like a machine that would just randomly throw darts at the board. How often would you hit the blue area? So we have to calculate the total area. So what's the total area of this rectangle? Six by 9, which is 54 units squared. How are we gonna calculate the blue area?
Oh. A squared plus B squared equals C squared.
Does anybody know how to calculate the area of a trapezoid?
We do the try.
Area of a trapezoid.
It's like the top and the bottom.
Well, what's the top?
3.
So area of a trapezoid is,
Above plus bottom and then multiply the height divided by 2.
so it's 1/2. Basically still base times height, but with a trapezoid you say base 1 plus base 2. So what do you get? 9, 54, 27.
27.
So the geometric probability then is 27 divided by 54, which equals 0.5. So you have a 0.5 chance of hitting that particular shape. Then we move into reading some charts, some tables. A national survey was taken measuring the highest level of educational achievement among adults aged 30 and over. Express each probability to the nearest 1,000th. So when you look, they have the highest level of education listed on the left, going down. They have broken down into also women and men that were in the survey. And so as you go through, you know, what's the total number of people that we surveyed?
3,172.
Right there. I mean, that is the grand total. We talked to 3,172 people in this survey. What I want you to do is go through this with somebody sitting near you. Try to answer those questions first, and then I'll do the problem with you. I just want to give you a chance to read them, so read them carefully. I will say that you're not always dividing by the 3,172. You use different totals, so try to see if you can figure it out. Here we go. What is the probability that a randomly chosen person from the survey group is a man? Peyton,
What I
the
did-
first one.
What I did was take the total number of men and divide by a total amount of people.
Can you tell me what the decimal is, please?
It's 0.49. So
So-
overall, it's 49%.
So the total number of men divided by the total people in the survey, because it's a randomly chosen person from the survey group. What is the probability that the highest level of education completed by a randomly chosen person is a bachelor's degree? What's the probability that you're choosing a person with a bachelor's degree? Anybody get that? What's the total number we're using in this problem?
1,002. Total number of people, bachelor's degree.
Divided by,
Divided by the total.
so you have to find a bachelor's degree, now not just the women, not just the men, everybody, so it's the 1,002 divided by 3,172. And can you tell me what that decimal is?
0.32.
0.32. What is the probability that a randomly chosen woman has earned a bachelor's or graduate degree? So now we're no longer using that 3,172 total, we're only looking at the women. So you go down to the bottom and it's 1,602, there are 1,602 women in the survey. Bachelor's degree or graduate, so we actually have to put both of these together. So what do you get when you add those two numbers together?
916.
916 divided by the 1,602 women that were a part of the survey, and what do we get? 0.57. And then finally, what is the probability that a randomly chosen person whose highest level of education is high school is a man? So on this one, what is the probability the randomly chosen person whose highest level of education is high school? So go to high school. This is our total group right there, 537. So that's going on the bottom. We're going to divide some number by 537. And then yes, only the men, so we divide by 305. And can somebody give me that decimal? 0.57 also? Okay. When you read those problems, it's very easy for you to pull the wrong number out and divide by it. So read the problem carefully. Think about what they're asking, kind of who's in the room at the time that we're, at this one, we're only bringing 537 people into the room. And then we want, just to talk to the men is kind of what that question's saying.